Late this last summer, the city was requested to sign our undeveloped Lower Clyde Park property, and that came with a donation to pay for the sign. And as we were looking at this request, we just came to the conclusion that it had more significant impact on other parks that we have. So we thought it needed just some more debate before a decision on that was made. As you can see up here on the slide, I mean, we have several properties that are unsigned. They're not even parks yet. They're undeveloped. And so, I mean, this particular park, the decision for this should anyway have an impact on all of them. Through time, this particular topic, not for Lower Clyde, but parks in general, the properties of signing those undeveloped properties has come up, and the pros for signing those have been that it informs the public that it's city property and that someday it will be a park. Parks increase land values surrounding them, and also it has a way of placing pressure on the city to develop them in a more timely manner if they're signed. And some of the cons of this, though, are that it can give false impressions or hope that development of that property is at hand, misconceptions of development priorities, and misperceptions of invitations of usage. And we have some properties that aren't even accessible, so signing them, nobody would even see the sign. Plus, the signs cost money, and not only to buy but also to maintain. This year, I put this together the best that I could. Lower Clyde Park, using our standard park design, or park sign design, a little caption that was requested by the family donating the money for the sign was dedicated to Moscow pioneer families, plus there would be a photo embossed onto this as well. And then also for properties that we don't even have an official name for, future home of whatever park, signs could be placed there as well. So anyway, this came before the Parks and Rec Commission back in August, and their recommendation at that time was to hold off until we actually had a park design, a development plan in place, a little closer to the time that it was to develop the park. The need to get this resolved has gotten a little tighter, and so we brought this back again and to the Parks and Recreation Commission this last meeting that they had on the 5th of December, and their thoughts on it hasn't changed much. This is a little bit different language, at least the order of it, than what's in your packet. It wasn't really clear. The without exceptional circumstances made it a little confusing. So the staff recommendation, which was also the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission, was to sign the city-owned properties. It would take place once the development date has been approved by the City Council. And then no park property will be signed prior to the setting of the development date without exceptional circumstances. And then once a development date is approved, a temporary future home of whatever park sign would be installed, followed by the official sign once the development actually takes place. We ran this by the administrative committee last week, and there was, I think for the most part, this was an accepted plan, but also needed some more debate, so we're bringing it to the full council for for your decision on this. And like I say, in your packet, I've got a little bit different wording up there, but this is how we would like that to actually read.
Okay. Thank you, Dwight.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think Sue chaired the committee, did you?
Yeah, we had some animated discussion about it, and finally we came down to, well, the whole Parks and Recreation Commission had looked at this and a couple of times and had thought that this was a good idea. We know that within 2 to 5 years there will be a plan for the development of each park, but that doesn't mean that there's a date set for development. And I think the point brought up that some signs wouldn't even be seen because there's no access yet, or that they might get really dilapidated, that we kind of thought that this sounded like a good plan, but we wanted to run it by the rest of council, see what they thought.
Okay, thanks. Wayne, you said on that?
Dwight, I was just going to ask you again to give an example of what an exceptional circumstance would be.
Well, I mean, you could actually, possibly, I mean, Tom could certainly add to this since it was a project that he's really interested in, but Lola Clyde Park, for example, could be an exceptional circumstance. It is at a point where we're just, not exactly there, but we're at a point where almost a breakthrough point to start development. We are searching, exploring right now. We have the world's greatest grants manager working on it, but possibly garnering some money to finish the road improvements for Polk Street, as well as a parking area, as well as some pathway through there. That still leaves us without an actual development plan. We're going about it a little backward, but sometimes when the money's there, you just have to take advantage of it and then catch up. Still be some Rodeo Drive that would be unimproved, but in this particular case, you have the family whom the city purchased this from is requesting the sign, but they also were forking over some money for it as well. So I don't know if that would be exceptional enough, but that's an example.
I think I saw Tom's hand next and then Dan's. Tom?
Well, I feel somewhat responsible for this. So this summer, I recruited or obtained or was given $1,000 donation by family members of Lola Clyde with an additional letter of a pledge of $2,000 to pay for the rest of the sign. The feeling by that family member, those two family members, and others in their family is that this park has been moving very slowly since it came to the city, and that perhaps signage would get things moving along. Within a little bit of the history of the Lola Clyde Park, I think that's interesting is it came to the city, and there was not a whole lot of movement, but I can't remember what year it was when the remeandering project took place of Hog Creek through there, and the bridge was installed. And then there was a student design project that Turo Tawa's class did, a landscape architect professor at the University of Idaho, and they came up with lots of designs. And then a few years ago, the city circulated around some surveys and some questions about how they would like future development of the park to take place. In my observation, I feel like park development has already started. That I agree that if this were a question about, say, Mosier Park, where it's out there in the field somewhere and not really defined, that you could easily say that's an undeveloped park. But this particular park has actually the development of that has actually already started. And my feeling is we are that many years late in getting the sign up that we should have been thinking about the signage back when we were doing the bridge, or back when the stream was remeandered. But luckily, we have a private donor who's stepped forward and saying, hey, I'll pay for this sign. Not only are they saying that they would like to pay for the sign, but they are interested in doing fundraising to recruit other people to make donations to the city so that we can start getting other features paid for, including one of the family members is the wife of Idaho's Lieutenant Governor, Brad Little, another family member of Lola Clyde. I feel if we don't, we've already got a check sitting in a drawer and desk in the city. I feel if we don't jump on this quickly and say, hey, thank you very much, we would like to cash this check, we would like to receive the rest of your donation, and we would like to get this sign built and put in, I think we're losing an opportunity to encourage people to embrace our park system. This park is already a park. It's not irrigated. It's not seeded with a certain kind of plant mix, seed mix. It doesn't have pathways already put in. It doesn't have a ball field put in. It doesn't have a tot lot or a kid structure or anything like that. But it's already developed at some level to be a park. It gets used. There's a family across the street that mows it every year, every once in a while, and sticks a volleyball net up and invites their friends, and they come and they play on it. It gets used. There are people that throw balls for their dogs. In my other life as a director of PCEI, which is a neighbor to the park, we get people all the time that come and ask questions, wanting to find out what that thing is out there, what's that piece of ground out there, and we have to always explain, well, that's actually a city park, it already has a name, there's no sign, but some things have started. There's a lot more that can be done and that should be done, but in my opinion, it deserves a sign. It deserves at least what's been offered by the Clyde family to get some recognition that it actually exists. And I think before too much more time passes or God forbid, people passing, I would like to see some recognition of Lola Clyde, the woman that was featured in the National Geographic magazine back in 1982, I think, where she's holding the pie, and that's the picture that Dwight referenced. In that little half circle above the name, it would be really sweet if we could have a little image of her holding that pie like it was in the National Geographic. Now, that's not a requirement of the family or anything, but I think it would be a nice gesture to recognize that. Perhaps exceptional circumstances is that there's been some development. Perhaps exceptional circumstances is that, there's been some money pledged and donated. And I think I was going to address something on the third point, and I can't remember what the third point now was, but and I think it'd be great to hang something or to put something on there saying future work is coming. This isn't done. I'm not suggesting that we should say this is the done Lola Clyde Park. And the family is also in agreement with that. I do think it would be kind of a waste of resources to throw a future home of sign up and then take that down and then put up a real sign when in this particular case, maybe that works in other situations, but in this particular case, I think we can go ahead and just put the name of it up there and then add hey, more work's coming. We're not done yet. So anyway, those are my feelings about this particular sign. The policy is much broader than that because I agree that there are lots of pieces in the city of Moscow that are really truly undeveloped.
Okay, we'll go Dan and then Tim.
Yeah, Dwight, can you go back to your first slide that had all the undeveloped on it? Okay, how many of those, Dwight, are the actual name of the park? I mean, I see at least 3, but how many of them are the actual names?
3.
Just the 3?
3.
So, to me, that could be also construed as your exceptional circumstance. You've gone through the process of actually naming the park. So, I mean, Honest Park is going to be developed this summer, so that's a given. That's a gimme there. I'm assuming Milton Arthur is the other one.
Correct.
And where's that?
We're just waiting on the economy, so he
No,
can move forward.
where is the park?
Where? Over by the old Slurp and Burp,
Okay.
end of White Avenue there.
So, to me, those are the circumstances where that park exists. I mean, it has a name. I mean, I know where Vista Park is because my folks live up there, and it's pretty well used and everything, but, is that the name of the park? I think that ought to be part of one of your exceptional circumstances, is that it has gone through the naming process, so let's go ahead and sign it. You can put Tom's extra, this is what it is, not done yet, but...
Well, we talked about that, and, I mean, Milton Arthur, even though it's right there and it's been named, it could be years before that takes place. We just don't know. We just don't know.
Is it as used or usable as the Lola Clyde Park?
No.
And that might be a difference, too. I think that, I trust your judgment. I mean, I don't see you saying, no, Lola Clyde, that's a bad idea to name that, because, yeah, it's being used. And the same thing, I think, with Hotness. I mean, obviously, it's going to be done, so that one, I mean, it kind of leapfrogged a bunch of these, but, it got lucky, I guess.
Well, and you could have that very often. A lot of times the development plan will depend on opportunities that come up, or possibly the lesser expensive things that are there you might be able to develop sooner. Lola Clyde had some pretty expensive things attached to it, and we are talking about family, and I'm not trying to take anything away from any of that, but it was not a donated park in the name of the family. It was donated with the name of the family as a condition of purchase. So we know, just for example, the survey that Tom mentioned, and we were very explicit in that survey that this did not mean we were getting ready to develop it. I mean, the phones just rang off the hook about, why aren't you developing it yet? Is it next summer? I mean, all those kinds of things. So the hesitancy was the expectation of, once you sign it, the expectation is that you are going to develop it. We've already heard tonight that it's already being developed, and it's creeping up there, but it's also one of those things where we still haven't done the road improvements. And at least until the adoption of the master plan here a few weeks ago, where you have the ability, or at least the language in there now, where case by case you can phase these things, we're kind of out of order on this park in a lot of ways. I don't have any super heartburn with signing this park. It was just the point that this sets precedence for what we're doing with the rest of them. If this is considered an exceptional circumstance, you're still within the recommended policy for that. So it would just work.
Okay, we'll go Tim and then Wayne. Tim?
Thank you, Mayor Cheney. Well, I just want to point out to one and all that this policy applies to all of the undeveloped parks, not just to one. And it seems like we're spending a lot of time on one particular park here, when perhaps a month or so or a year or so down the road, given the grant applications that are out there from the state of Idaho, the road improvements, the parking lot, and other sorts of things can more than likely be accomplished for Lola Clyde. And then certainly signage. But the Parks and Rec Commission spent hours on this policy, well, certainly spent a lot of time on this policy to develop. And I think it was, the biggest concern from Parks and Rec was that any type of signage, whether it was the future home of or the actual name of the park, would force the city to bring the infrastructure up to steady code, up to the standards that we've asked other developers to do in similar circumstances. So that's where Parks and Rec is coming from, and that's why I'm going to support the new verbiage that we have before us.
Wayne?
Well, I too will support it. I suspect that these signs, these finished park signs, are not cheap.
They're not cheap.
And so I would certainly discourage you from putting any signs up until you have a definitive date for development on any parks, because of the expense of the signs and then because of the upkeep that's required as time goes on. I would not want to see a sign go up and 5, 6 years down the road, there's still no developing going on, and we have to maintain a sign that says future home of, and probably wouldn't just probably be the name of the sign. I think it's really generous of the Lola Clyde family to make the donations that they did. I think that's goes beyond the call of duty. At the same time, I feel like we're being held hostage just a little bit by saying, well, we've donated money, now why aren't you doing anything, where in fact we purchased the property as you indicated. Now, that being said, I've been waiting for Lola Clyde Park to be developed since long before I got on council, wondering what that bridge out in the middle of that field was all about. So if putting a sign up there hastens the development of Lola Clyde Park, well, rock and roll.
So is that a motion? Are you going to make a motion?
Dwight, you had something to add to that?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to take care of it through this. I don't even know if you can, but through this, do you also want to make a statement as far as signing this particular park?
Statement is what?
Of signing Lola Clyde under this policy if you pass that tonight.
Well, let's consider that one separately if the council so chooses, but at least setting the policy initially to allow that caveat. I'm sorry, Gary, did you have something?
And that's not an action item for tonight, so that would have to come back before the council in a separate council.
A declaration of exceptional circumstance or something like that? Okay.
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 So as...
Tim's testing the air down there.
Oh, yes, Tim, go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion.
All right, please.
So I'll move that we adopt the signing policy for city-owned undeveloped park properties as it is put forth here and not the way it's presented in the packet.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
Okay, Tim's motion, Dan's second. Further discussion. Tom?
Well, I'll tell you why I'm going to vote no. And that is that I think we have a difference of opinion of what a development date is. In my opinion, development of the Lola Clyde Park has already started, and I don't think that it's clear from this writing that what is meant by the term development date. So I think that that's a question and concern, and I also don't think we have a clear understanding or agreement on what an exceptional circumstance is. And when in this particular case, I think it could potentially be an exceptional circumstance in that we have, 100% of the money for the sign already pledged. So I think that we could easily see this as an exceptional circumstance, and I think we can also see that we could also decide that a development date has come and gone and has passed. We have had some development out there. So I think there's some confusion about this. So that's my concern with this. Now, maybe in a future meeting, we'll decide, this body or the next body will decide that we've met those two criteria already for this particular park, and therefore, that's fine. I certainly don't think we should be signing, pieces of ground out in the middle of a wheat field that haven't really been platted yet. So I can understand some aspects of this, but I think in this particular case that's been discussed, or the trigger for why we're discussing this tonight anyway, the Lola Clyde Park, doesn't meet the criteria of this particular policy.
Is there further
But
discussion?
that's okay, I'm just stating my reason for opposition.
Anything else, Wayne?
Well, I'll just respond to Tom. Actually, it's not really going to be an ordinance, but
No.
it's not specifically for Lola Clyde. It's an overall brush for all the parks. I don't think as a council that we want to sit here and we actually want to develop what the exceptional circumstances are. I think we start micromanaging Parks and Recreation when that happens. We need to give Parks and Rec and Dwight some latitude as to the decision-making process. Now, we can individually exert pressure upon Dwight and Parks and Rec on individual parks and try to get development to move along, and I would certainly encourage that when it comes to the Lola Clyde Park. But I do believe that does do what the motion and the second incline it to do, and I think you should vote for it because it'll move us in the direction that we want to go. This is not specifically about Lola Clyde. The purpose of it is to encompass all the parks.
Sure.
Is there further discussion before voting? All right. Hearing none, we'll start a roll call vote with you, Dan.
Aye.
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 No.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. And then, Tom, I would just encourage you, if you want to prevail upon your colleagues, to, develop some language pertaining to the exceptional nature of Lola Clyde Park, that you do that.
Yeah, months
Just go
ago,
twist Dwight's arm and give him
Months
that.
ago, I brought a check to the city and a letter for more money, and hasn't gone anywhere yet, so I'll keep trying.
Okay.
And I was on the phone with the family today, and they wished me the best in our efforts tonight, so hopefully we'll get somewhere. Appreciate that. And thanks again to the family. I hope we don't lose that generous offer.
Nancy?
Yes.
One more comment. Tom, when it comes on, as far as Lola Clyde, let's get something put together, and let's get Parks and Rec to get some finite things and bring it before admin, and let's move this ahead.
That'd be great.
You're in charge of that.
Okay. Sounds good. When I'm chair of admin next year, I'll go ahead and do that.
All right.